inspired by this message, and it's so nice to see it happening and having the opportunity to have somebody on the national scene start to talk about the things that we've all been standing for, and of course that you've been standing for longer than most of us. So we are coming up with creative ideas, and of course this march is just one of them. Another one, though, of course, is what we're doing here at Revolution Broadcasting. We are attempting to bring grassroots media, essentially, where we become the media from the grassroots up and bring the message that the mainstream media is certainly not going to let anybody hear. What do you think of that project, and what more can people do to get involved?
I think that's what has to be done, because you can complain about the mainstream media. Oh, they won't do this and they won't do that. You complain forever and ever. First, they have the power and the clout and the government on their side, and second, if they were truly privately owned, we can't tell them what to do anyway. But it's just an obstacle that we can understand, and we can complain when we feel like it, but we can't leave it there. We have to, fortunately, we have alternative sources, and we have the internet, and we have radio, and we have shortwave, and we just have so much available to us that we can circumvent, so much of what has been put in front of us. So I think what you're doing is great.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I mean, it's got to be pretty inspiring to see how many people are fired up and how many creative minds are on track for doing all this stuff. How does that make you feel as you've seen this blossom over the last year and 18 months?
Well, it's encouraged me, because I've told people all along that I was rather reluctant, not believing there would be that many people that would respond. And so the numbers are way above my expectations. Those who did know about what was going on, and they were enthusiastic, and then also the young people who had not heard about the message, they responded very favorably. So I am more optimistic now than I was a year ago.
That is definitely something that amazes me, is that there still are people, because being with you all along and being around since the beginning of the campaign, and of course knowing about you long before you entered the presidential race through my connections, and people in the Free State Project, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I mean, your name was known as the one guy out there, the one guy in Congress who stood up. So it's been amazing to me, but it still blows my mind that there are people to this day who are not aware that there is a revolution going on in this country. And to us, it's like we're on the inside, so we know. So what's your idea of how do we continue to get those people on board and let them know what's happening?
Well, I guess one day at a time, one person at a time, one mind at a time, and yet that's been pretty successful for us. But it is true that if you have certain events or campaigns, it's very helpful. I mean, I don't particularly think a whole lot of politicians and politics, and even though that's all I ever seem to be doing, it is a great vehicle, and we were able to get, in spite of some of the shortcomings, we were able to get the attention of a lot of people. So I think at a local level and a smaller level, you can do that too. I mean, I think people should be looking for issues at the state level, tax issues and property rights issues, and many things where they can, rally people. And the one great thing about the freedom philosophy is, and I talk about this a whole lot in my speeches, is that it doesn't divide people up. It brings people who are very diverse in their thinking together, because they want to be left alone to do whatever they want to do. So this, to me, draws support from independents, from the left, from the right, from the hard money people, from the anti-tax people, from the civil libertarians, and the anti-war people. I mean, this is a great coalition that you can build, and you can feel good about it, because we're really doing nothing more than defending our Constitution and personal liberties, but the real core of what has made us a great nation.
That's absolutely true. We were so honored and excited by the fact that we were able to reach across party lines in several different ways with this march. For instance, Naomi Wolf is going to be speaking. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work.
I am. I've read her stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, she did a really good job at compiling a lot of historical data and comparing it to what we're seeing today in this country. And she's going to be speaking there. And of course, she is also one of the co-founders of the American Freedom Campaign, which was created essentially solely to back one of your House bills. And now this is a very left organization. So how does that make you feel, that even you have the left type organizations getting behind you?
Well, I think it's logical. We shouldn't be surprised, but we still are. We're still surprised and pleased when it finally comes together. But by all logic, we should have expected it. So, no, I think it's great that people come together like that.
Now, and your fellow Republicans, do they see that as kind of like a blackening on your image in any way? And how do you respond to that?
I think they remain confused for the most part,
right?
because they can't quite understand, the recent Supreme Court rulings. When one week the majority rules to improve on habeas corpus, and then the other group rules to protect the Second Amendment, and yet our side would protect habeas corpus and the Second Amendment, and yet in the Supreme Court in Washington and Congress and the political parties are still split, and I don't quite understand what the correct position is in defending both positions. Yeah,
really, there's no consistency whatsoever. They really have us confused these days with this supposed left-right battle, and essentially both the parties are so similar these days, it's tough to tell them apart. The real thing we ought to be talking about, the real political question is, the real political ideology measurement is, are we talking about more government, or are we talking about more freedom, and where do you fall on that? And so what do you make of that? How do we change the debate?
Well, that's the biggest job, and that, of course, is the most important job, is to change the debate. And it really, long-term, is an educational thing. And that's why I'm surprised at times when something happens within 6 months or 12 months. But I think where I miscalculated was we're estimating how many people over the last 20 or 30 years have been introduced to these ideas. And it just happened that a lot more had been. But I think, the documentaries and different programs that have been put out there and the availability of this information on the Internet is what moved it along. So I think we're moving much quicker. We live in different times. It's both dangerous and very beneficial to us. It's dangerous because the enemy can use it. They're always wanting to curtail the use of the Internet and civil liberties and privacy. At the same time, it's pretty hard to regulate the people today as long as we have this freedom to use the Internet and freedom to march. But, if in 6 months from now, if we're all arrested because we're having a march and we're opposed to the war, maybe they'll be in war in Iran by that time, and then if we're opposing it, some of these laws that have been put on the books, so this domestic surveillance law, it could be that people are going to be arrested. So very dangerous time. At the same time, this technology we have to use and work very hard to, to promote our cause.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so important for us to stay networked. What's one of the other things I think that's important about, actions and looking each other in the face and getting to know each other, because, if people start disappearing suddenly, we need to know that. We need to notice that they're gone and be able to do something about it.
Right. And today it's happening, but not wholesale, and probably not with our next door neighbors. But our system of surveillance now and spying and arrest around the world. There are secret prisons and secret arrests and all kinds of trials going on. We hear about Guantanamo, and we have court rulings on that, but I'm not so sure that's going to take care of all the things that are done in secrecy. And it's been done for a long time. Just looking at how our CIA has acted in secrecy even 50, 60 years ago, in overthrowing regimes. So it's something that ultimately, though, the whole test is not the law that is written, it's the quality of the character of the people that are supposed to represent us. And I think that's where we fall short. You can have weak laws to protect our liberties, but if you have men of great character, we probably wouldn't have to worry. But if we have strong laws, but if we have men and women in Washington who say that, that doesn't mean that, we believe in a strong unitary presidency, and we can do what we want, according to the issue of commander-in-chief, then we have problems. So it's a big issue on understanding liberty, education, politics, but ultimately I think it boils down to the character of the people who end up in our government.
Absolutely. Now you really stand alone in terms of somebody who has the track record and has been consistent with this message for so long. There really isn't anybody else who compares. Of course.